We believe that public policy cannot be complete till such time we have the voices from the ground heard. This then leads to inclusive growth. Scotch Foundation has had an opportunity to work at the grassroots and document such successes that have had a far reaching impact on the policy apart from bringing economic empowerment and generation of livelihoods. We are privileged to have been joined by a few champions who have contributed a lot to the upliftment of rural areas as well as strengthen governance at the grassroots. I would like to welcome Mr. Amarjeet Sinha, advisor to the Prime Minister. The Ministries of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj have benefited immensely from his decades of experience as Secretary. It was during his times as Secretary that schemes like PMGSY, NRLM, and MGNREGS scaled newer heights. Mr. Sinha is an institution builder. Mr. Nagendra Nath Sinha, Secretary, Ministry of Rural Development. It is due to efforts of Mr. Sinha that the Ministry of Rural Development is further building on its strengths. He was earlier Additional Chief Secretary, Rural Development, Government of Jharkhand. I would like to welcome Mr. Sunil Kumar, Secretary, Ministry of Panchayati Raj. Prior to coming to Ministry of Panchayati Raj, he was Special Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Strengthening Panchayati Raj system, devolutions and transparency are some of his passion areas. Mr. Rajashri Purkayastha Raj, Head of Pre-Sales, Tata Communications and member, Working Group on Future of Governance, CEOs Association for Inclusive India, CAII. Rajashri Purkayastha Raj is a technologist by profession, a trainer by passion, with many accolades under his belt and 3 pending patents. In his present role, he is responsible for gaining an in-depth understanding of customers and market forces to develop solutions that add value to customers' businesses. A very warm welcome to all the esteemed panelists.
One of the biggest challenges of being an assessment agency is to be able to figure out if the change that has been brought in is systemic or not. Given the history of Scotch Awards and the fact that we've been doing these assessments for over 20 years now, and we are possibly the largest knowledge repository on governance best practices in India, it is not very often that you come across an entire sector that has changed and changed for the good. Out of the very few examples that there are, the social sector, which is rural development and Panchayati Raj, stands out. It was none other than Mr. Amarjeet Sinha, who was then Secretary of Ministry of Rural Development, thereafter also Secretary of Panchayati Raj, and now in the Prime Minister's office, he's playing an advisory role towards the social sector facing the Ministries of Government of India. Sir, it is absolutely commendable the kind of systemic change, because we find this is the 3rd or the 4th year in the running that Ministry of Rural Development has come up as one of the best performing ministries amongst all government ministries that there are. And that itself shows the kind of impetus that you have given and the lasting systemic change. You know, it's gone beyond champions, which has been the bane of governance reform in India. You know, we were historically very good with pilots and we were very good with champions. But anything that is population scale and systemic in nature is something which is, really has to be applauded and appreciated. So first of all, a big round of applause for you and your commendable work and the beautiful legacy that you've left behind. Obviously, following in your footsteps are very competent, very good officers who have not only picked up from where you left these institutions, but built them enormously. I do recall Mr. N.N. Sinha, who is now Secretary Rural Development. He did such an enormously good job when he was in the state of Jharkhand. I mean, I have known him since he was IT Secretary there. Very, very savvy, very competent person. And he did have, if I am not, if my memory doesn't fail me, he was also looking partially after Panchayati Raj at some time. Very commendable work that he had done there. And we are pleased that under his leadership, such a phenomenal work has been done. Every year we assess central government ministries. And this year we have ranked some of the social sector ministries. Again, they have come up on the tops. And the first one amongst them, of course, is the Ministry of Rural Development. The Scotch Challenger Award this year is to be conferred for the best in governance on Ministry of Rural Development. We are pleased that Mr. N.N. Sinha is himself there. May I request Mr. Amarjeet Sinha to confer it. I mean, virtually, that's how you confer it. So you put your picture and Gurcharan will read a citation when Mr. N.N. Sinha, you are on the screen, and then after that, you can share your thoughts. Welcome, sir. Gurcharan, will you read the citation? And
greetings and namaskar to everyone. And it's really heartwarming to have all the champions in the devolution as well as the rural development on one platform with us. Thank you very much for joining us. And here we go with the announcement of Scotch Challenger Award for Ministry of Rural Development in Governance, received by Mr. N.N. Sinha, Secretary. Connecting rural India and rural roads, improving access, promoting institutions for the poor, forming SHGs, building capacities at the grassroots, skills for youth, engaging with communities, creating resource pool, and creating infrastructure, promoting livelihoods are some efforts that have reduced the haters between the rural and urban India. At Ministry of Rural Development, the change is process-driven and has been scaling year on year, whether it is PMGSY, DAY NRLM, or MGNREGM. There have been incremental improvements each year. Congratulations, Mr. Sinha.
Thank you.
so, Mr. Amarjeet Sinha, sir, now if you'll have to formally say, I confer the Scotch Challenger Award for Best Governance on you, and then you can move on to your speech.
I confer the Scotch Challenger Award for Good Governance to Ministry of Rural Development, and congratulations to NN and the entire team.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, and I accept on behalf of the Rural Development Ministry, and I thank you, sir, because it is you who was in the hot seat for 3/4 of the year, and you laid the foundations and the tracks on which this ministry continues to move. And thank you, Samir, and thank you, Co-Chair Development Foundation, for conferring this award. Thank you.
Pleasure, Mr. Sinha. But in the same breath, I would also like to talk about a ministry that I had personally given up on, which is Ministry of Panchayati Raj. The ministry was formed much late in the history of ministries in 2004. There was some activity in 2004 and 2006 when we were having these enormous roundtables of Panchayati Raj ministers. Central was consulting the state governments on how to do, and we had the pleasure of being co-organizers for the 7th roundtable of Panchayati Raj ministers, which focused on e-governance. And thereafter, a committee was formed called the Garola Committee, which was looking at introduction of e-governance in Panchayati Raj institutions. When I was a member of that committee, one of the role models that we had was the Gujarat model of eGram Vishwagram. They had done a formidable job, commendable job of computerization of Panchayati Raj institutions in Gujarat way back in 2003 itself, while the committee at the central level was formed only at around 2004, 2005. By the time it was 2008, it was practically a dead ministry. They had no schemes. They had only one scheme called BRGF, which was also discontinued thereafter. And the claim to fame of BRGF was possibly the worst possible design scheme in the history of India. It was gap funding for 10% for projects for which the states were short of funds. Panchayati Raj institutions were short of funds, and for getting the 90% money, they had to do practically nothing. And the amount of paperwork that they had to do to get the 10% balance from BRGF was so enormous that they said, no, thank you, we don't really want your money. That has now, I think, re-emerged something like Aspirational Districts Program, which was also Mr. Amarjeet Sinha's baby. And I'm telling you that is yet another program to be watched, and they're doing exceedingly well. So by the time it was 2008, I had kind of completely given up on e-governance ever happening in Panchayati Raj institutions. I was extremely pleasantly surprised when I came across Ministry of Panchayati Raj in its current avatar. Well, Mr. Amarjeet Sinha was there, and after that, I think Mr. Bhatnagar was there, and now, of course, Mr. Sunil Kumar. the amount of IT enablement and transparency that they brought in Panchayati Raj and the kind of ground that they've covered in such a short time period is enormous. So heartfelt thank you to you from Scotch Foundation and on behalf of the 250,000 Gram Panchayat that there are and 600,000 elected representatives. I think you've done a yeoman's service, sir. And with that, I invite Gulshan to read the citation for Panchayati Raj, and then I invite Mr. Ramandeep Sinha to confer the award to Mr. Sunil Kumar, Secretary Panchayati Raj, who's with us. Gulshan.
Thank you, Samir. The Ministry of Panchayati Raj for Scotch Challenger Award in Transparency in Governance, received by Mr. Sunil Kumar, Secretary. Finances as well as service deliveries through the Panchayati Raj system were historically considered opaque and leaky. While efforts on digitalization and bringing transparency have been going on for years, the real progress happened only over the last few years in terms of digitalization, connectivity, and more importantly, electronic tagging and tracking of funds being given to PRIs under various schemes. Today, all the 245,000 Gram Panchayats are automated, including planning, monitoring, budgeting, accounting, and audit. E-Gram Swaraj is aiming to bring in better transparency in decentralized planning and work-based accounting by integrating PriyaSoft and PFMS payment portals. Swamitwa scheme provides rural people with right to document their residential properties. Audit Online carries out online audit of panchayats for further strengthening the financial management and transparency of the panchayats, thereby enhance accountability. Congratulations, sir.
Mr. Sinha, would you kindly confer the award?
I confer the award on Ministry of Panchayati Raj. Sunil, congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you, sir. I accept this award on behalf of the ministry, both at the center and all the states and the Panchayati Raj institutions spread across the country. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. With that, I invite Mr. Sinha. We've had a very, very difficult year behind us, and rural India social sector has been is proven its mettle. It's been very resilient. So, what are the policy imperatives? We'd love you to have you share the direction from you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a very humbling experience when you learn from members of your team spread across the whole country. When a silent, quiet member of a women's self-help group under the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission chooses to work as a member of a team to help the village fight COVID, when it chooses to make masks for those who cannot afford, when it chooses to ensure that all the social distance, the wearing of mask, the cleanliness is maintained, the entire diversification of livelihoods, our real heroes are our foot soldiers. In all humility, the performance in the rural development and Panchayati Raj is actually the success of these foot soldiers across the length and breadth of this country, in partnership with state governments, in partnerships with panchayats, in partnerships with women's self-help groups and other community organizations. It is these foot soldiers who make the difference. Clearly, Jan Bhagidari, as our Honorable Prime Minister has emphasized every time, if we are able to connect effectively, if we are able to reach the households of the deprived, clearly transformation happens. A lot of the transformation in the rural sector begins with the socio-economic census, which allowed us an opportunity to identify the deprived households, irrespective of their caste, creed, religion. Whoever was deprived had to be covered. And it was these deprived households who were the beneficiaries of programs like the Ujjwala program, the Saubhagya program for free electrical connection to households, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, the Ayushman Bharat, the asset base of the very poor households has changed over these years. If the total rural households was about 18 crores in 2011, if suppose it were about, say, 20 crores today, 200 million households in rural India, it's quite significant and a major development that a large number of them today live a life where basic housing, Pakka housing, or 20 million houses since 2014, more than 10 million toilets, individual household toilets constructed during this period. We have more than 5 to 6 crore Ujjwala beneficiaries in rural areas. Large number of electricity connections, almost every household with an electricity connection. The Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana connecting large villages, habitations of 500 population in plain area and 250 in hill areas as per 2001 census. 3 in 4 intra-village roads becoming Pakka because of the Finance Commission grants, Pakka roads and drains. So clearly on a large number of infrastructure parameters, as also a large number of the asset base of the poor seen in terms of housing, bank account, electricity connection, gas connection, toilets. Clearly, on the ease of living platform, there is a change and there are challenges. The community approach involving the Gram Panchayats in the preparation of the Gram Panchayat development plan, the ranking of villages to find out what their deficits are, trying to provide for support for diversification of livelihoods, taking up individual beneficiary schemes of marginal and small farmers belonging to deprived households as part of the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program on a very large scale. A poultry shed somewhere, a dairy shed somewhere, a goat shed somewhere, a farm pond somewhere else, an irrigation well. Individual beneficiary schemes, 90 days of work along with the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin to work on your own house and get 90 days of work. Clearly, all these individual beneficiary schemes also provided support to those who needed it most. Even during the period of pandemic, whether it was the availability of food grains, whether it was the availability of free gas cylinders, whether it was the transfer of more than 31,000 crores to the 20 crore bank accounts, Jan Dhan accounts of women, clearly all these efforts were aimed to ensure that the poor, the deprived household get the benefits of public services. The use of IT, which has been emphasized, IT, DBT transfers, the geotagging of assets. Today across the country, every road in PMGSY is GIS enabled. Every asset of MGNREGS is geotagged and available in the public domain. Every house is available on the public domain under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin in different stages of construction. Panchayati Raj works under the 14th Finance Commission geotagged. The PFMSUs, clearly all these efforts, the social audit, technology is a means, but along with the means, the efforts made by Panchayati Raj and Rural Development Department, a true example of federalism, the center-state partnership, the center-state and local government partnerships, the community ownership, the various apps which allow citizens to connect with whatever programs are on. The apps like the eGram Swaraj app, which was mentioned, a range of them, which actually provides an opportunity for the social audit that was talked about, where again, I think on a large scale, the effort has been that if a women member of self-help groups actually becomes a trained social auditor, the benefit it will bring in terms of transparency of public services, in terms of quality of outcomes at the cutting edge level. Clearly, social capital, which has been built on a large scale, 6-7 years ago, we had about 2.7, 2.8 crore women as part of the livelihood mission. Today, there are 7.28 crore in about 66 lakh SHGs. Clearly, the 31 lakh elected representatives of Gram Panchayats, along with these more than 7 crore women of the SHGs, provide the resilience to the rural economy, provides the social connect, the social capital on which a lot of the diversification of livelihoods and higher order economic activity can be built. The lessons for public policy clearly are that wherever we follow a whole of government approach, the 11th schedule of the constitution, the 29 sectors where panchayats have a role, the 12th schedule for urban areas where in 18 sectors where urban local bodies have a role, clearly building capacity for local governance as a way forward. While we have engaged with local governments in service delivery, we also need to develop that capacity for local governance, and that's what the Panchayat Ministry has been trying to do, to identify the challenges, to be able to look at very carefully the roadmap in terms of all the 29 sectors. Over the last 3 years, the efforts of the Panchayat Ministry to actually have every year, 2nd October to the end of December, January, each year, a plan for organizing Gram Sabhas everywhere. Each and every Gram Sabha being monitored through a visual image on the common website, the GPDP. Each and every Gram Sabha meeting having a final report from a local facilitator. The line department functionaries also participating in that exercise. Clearly, the effort at a whole of government approach, at Jan Bhagidari, point which Honorable Prime Minister has repeatedly emphasized, clearly as a way forward to ensure that the benefits of development reach those who most need it, to reduce the asset deficits which many of these households have had, to improve their ability to connect with higher forms of economic activity, to build on their social capital, to provide for credit. For example, the self-help groups of the Livelihood Mission over the last 6-7 years have mobilized more than 3 lakh crores as loans through banks and putting it to very good use in various sectors. Clearly reaching credit to those who are willing to work in collectives, who are willing to show enterprise for higher order economic activity, for diversification of livelihoods. These are some of the pathways that we need to tread in the years to come. A lot of the institutional arrangements at the cutting edge level are institutions of the poor, are institutions of local governance, are institutions of collectives of women. And clearly, these institutions, the more we strengthen them, the more our ability for shared growth, the more our ability for a more equitable growth and development, and the more our ability to be able to ensure that every citizen of the country is able to maximize their human potential through diversification of livelihoods, through higher forms of human development, and so on. Clearly, the challenges of public policy are always the challenges at the cutting edge level, making a difference to the lives of the poor, ensuring that the number of deprived households comes down over time, using the social capital, the community connect to actually take up challenges, including challenges like the public health challenge of COVID-19. Rural India did manage to come out of it much better than many other parts of the country, and how the rural resilience, even during tough COVID times, the growth in agriculture, more than 3% growth in the last 2 quarters, at a time when many other sectors have had challenges. The demand for goods and services in rural areas, how on account of the large number of interventions over these years and the ability to reach resources through technology to the right persons at the cutting edge level. The challenges will always be there, but none of them are insurmountable. What the last 6-7 years, especially of working very closely with local communities in panchayats, in self-help groups, in various institutional partnerships with local governments, center, state, and local governments working together to arrive, to move towards certain well-defined outcomes and goals. The confidence it generates is that when we all work together, the center, state, local government, community organizations, the whole of government approach with Jan Bhagidari, with the institutional arrangements in place, with the use of technology on scale, at the end of the day, we do get better results from all perspectives, from diversification of livelihoods to better management of public health challenges. All of them are dependent on the community connect and the social capital that we develop over time. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share some of my points here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. What is really touching and very heartening, although I have known you for years and heard you, is this huge commitment to participatory democracy, the Jan Bhagidari and Panchayati Raj institutions. I think there is no better system for people to participate in policy making than other than these institutions that are enshrined in our constitution. Thank you so much. And this message is coming right from the Prime Minister's office. It is incredibly more important in current times. We are a little behind schedule right now. So may I request Mr. N.N. Sinha and then thereafter Mr. Sunil Kumar, if very briefly you could share your vision. I know you have a lot to say. Maybe we will do justice to it at another time. But the economic revival of rural India is extremely important in the current scenario post-COVID. So Mr. N.N. Sinha, if you could share your vision on that, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Co-Chair, and Mr. Amarjit Sinha, the advisor to the Prime Minister, has spoken very eloquently on the factors which have led to the rural resilience and which kind of prime it for the higher level of growth and which is equitable, which is participatory. So I will briefly touch upon the various factors which have led to rural resilience and which kind of lay down the path for economic revival and the role that the rural sector will play. We know that the economy has been worst affected by the COVID pandemic and the measures taken to control it. However, that was unavoidable as it prevented much higher level of casualties if this had not been taken. Generally, there is a tendency to conflate rural with agriculture. However, there is a major difference between rural and the agriculture. Half of the GDP, 2/3 of the employment, one half of the manufacturing and construction activities, 1/4 of the service delivery comes from the rural areas, while 61% of the employment in the rural areas come from non-farm jobs. We take the agriculture sector, only about 15 to 17% of the gross value added comes from the agriculture. Although there may be some further spread of COVID in the rural areas, and recently there have been some concerns regarding higher rates of growth of COVID incidence in the rural areas, we all appreciate the fact that the rural areas had not had as much impact of COVID as the urban and semi-urban areas, despite lower level of health infrastructure and services, as well as lower paying capacities. It is logical as the population densities in the rural areas are lower, people work outdoors, and therefore the conditions for spread of COVID are not as favorable as it was and is in the urban areas. It would then be logical to assume that the pattern of economic activity wouldn't have changed much in the rural areas, and certainly better than urban areas. This find reflection in the patterns of unemployment, sale of fertilizers, tractors, motorbikes, and fast-moving consumer goods. If we take the rural unemployment trends in this financial year, except for the month of December 2020, the rural unemployment rates have been consistently lower than the urban unemployment rates. If we take tractor sales, except for the month of April, year over year, month-wise sales have been consistently more, ranging from 4% to 75%. August and December have been standout months in which these figures were 75% and 42% more than those of corresponding months last year. If we take sale of fertilizers in the months of April to July, year over year, there was an increase of 57%. For the year as a whole, overall fertilizer sales have been approximately 20% more than that of last year. There are similar trends. I won't mention them for the sake of time. It may be inferred from those buoyant trends that this is so from the mere fact that the rural areas have not been impacted as much by the COVID. However, the factual matrix is otherwise. The government has taken a comprehensive set of measures for ensuring not only minimum impact of COVID, but also prime rural areas for a higher level of growth. The country also received good monsoon for the second running year. In the Kharif season, the area sowed was 7.2% more, while in the Rabi season, there has been about 4% more area sown. To recount some of the measures, the government exempted agriculture operations from the lockdown restriction in the lockdown restrictions. In the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Yojana, there were transfers of over 53,000 crore in this financial year itself. Wheat and paddy procurement infused approximately 1.75 lakh crore additional liquidity in the rural areas. First quarter of the financial year saw about 1.25 lakh crore released to the rural areas on account of public programs, procurement payments, and other transfers. For the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, the outlay was raised by 50% to 1.01 lakh crore, never previously achieved in this financial year, while it has promised to provide another rupees 10,000 crore more this year. The Finance Commission provided grants worth rupees 30,000 crore as the first installment, while another installment would go or may have gone. To women PM Jan Dhan Yojana beneficiaries and National Social Assistance Program beneficiaries who come largely from the rural areas, a sum of about over 33,000 crores were released under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Similarly, the KCC has a target of 15 lakh crore. It sought to cover 2.4 crore more beneficiaries, infusing a liquidity of about 2 lakh crores more. One must not forget that a target program for migrants and similarly affected villages was launched in 116 districts, which received a large number of returning migrants in the rural areas, and a sum of over rupees 39,000 crores were spent, and over 50 crore percent of employment was generated. One can go on and on. However, I would like to comment on some reform measures which lay down a clear reform path for intense growth in the rural sectors. One District, One Product is an initiative of the government which focuses upon cluster-based development for the identified products, and thus ensure competitive advantage not only in the domestic sale but also export of those products. The scheme of formation of 10,000 FPOs is about developing value chains through aggregation of marketing surpluses of the small and marginal farmers. The scheme of Agriculture and Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Fund supports development of post-harvest infrastructure for complementing the value chains. Similar objectives have been laid for schemes known as Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Formalization of Micro-Food Processing Enterprises, schemes for providing financial, technical, and business support for upgradation of existing enterprises and developing them. There's generally a consensus on the path of the development of the rural economy. These relate to linking production to processing through efficient value chains, raising productivity of farming through land pooling, contract farming, land consolidation, land leasing, etc., practicing integrated farming and adopting agroecological approaches, which include a number of agriculture measures such as diversification of crops, conservation tillage, etc. in the rural areas. Utilizing domestic and agriculture wastes as inputs for further economic activities such as cow dung for biofertilizers, organic pens, paddy straw for building construction materials, for use as energy pellets in the thermal power plants, etc. Developing economic clusters as has been done by the rural development ministries, urban programs, and so on. Production of more labor-intensive industries such as textiles, footwear, electronics, toys, etc. are also being pursued through some fundamental reforms, though some fundamental reforms may be required in this regard. However, developing industrial parks permitting plug and play industrialization, streamlining the approval and enabling process is already being pursued. Rural tourism, broad-based real estate growth are some other sectors which can also push rural economy further if regulations are streamlined and higher credit is provided to the sector, and some of which are already being done and would be done. Although the central government has taken many policy steps in this regard, much would depend on the speed and rigorousness with which these decisions are implemented and support that these measures receive from the state and local governments. It's, however, very important to realize that this is not the program of central government alone, but a mission for India and especially rural India. And therefore, all well-wishers of the country and rural citizens, including farmers, should put their heads and hands together to realize the same. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity of sharing my thoughts on the rural areas and the economic revival.
Pleasure, Mr. Sinha. As always, listening to you. Now I invite Mr. Sunil Kumar. I mean, if the Ministry of Panchayati Raj was in another race for an award, it would win the award for the ministry with the smallest budget. So with that smaller budget, how have you been able to, achieve so much, and what's the path forward, Mr. Sunil Kumar, if you kindly share?
Thank you. I have been asked to speak on decentralization and transparency. Now, before this August audience, who are all research scholars, postgraduates, doctorates, and people who have tremendous experience in the field, I need not go in and explain in great detail that participation and transparency and accountability, these are two principal components of decentralization. As was mentioned initially, right at the outset by Mr. Samir Kochhar, panchayats have come a long way over the last 23 years. That is since 27 years since 1993. There have been ups and downs, but now we are at a stage where elections are being held regularly for over 2.55 lakh gram panchayats, 6,700 odd block panchayats, and 654 district panchayats. There are some challenges, but by and large, this system has stabilized, and today we have over 31 lakh elected representatives, of which 45% are women, which is the largest body of elected representatives in the world. And here I would like to mention that today 21 states have reserved 50% of seats in the panchayats for women representatives. This is a huge sort of development, and the spin-off benefits of these sort of decisions which have been taken, these are now slowly beginning to be seen in the rural areas. The gender, age, educational profile of elected PRI functionaries is also changing over time. Increasingly, young, educated, technically skilled persons are getting elected, and they are joining the Panchayati Raj institutions. The fund allocation to the PRIs has increased from rupees 20,000 crore by 12th Finance Commission to over rupees 2 lakh crore by 14th Finance Commission. And even the 15th Finance Commission, in its interim recommendation, has allocated rupees 60,750 crore during the current financial year. And we believe that when the full report is out, it will be substantially higher than the recommendation of the 14th Finance Commission. As was mentioned by the advisor to the Prime Minister, Mr. Amarjit Sinha, the COVID pandemic, it tested the strength of various institutions at all levels, and the Panchayati Raj institutions were no exception. I'm happy to inform that Gram Panchayats played a stellar role in several states in enforcing lockdown, adoption of COVID appropriate behavior, running quarantine centers for the large number of migrants who were returning to the villages from the cities. And even in the national COVID vaccination drive, which has been launched by the Honorable Prime Minister today, they will be playing an important role of facilitator. Now, so it is widely recognized that elected panchayat functionaries, they are the ones who are there in the village at all times to respond to citizens in the quickly evolving situation and provide support to health, revenue, and other authorities. And this became clear during this COVID pandemic times. Honorable Prime Minister, for the first time, held direct interaction with elected panchayat representatives digitally on the National Panchayati Raj Day on 24th April 2020. And now, after that, now similar chief ministers and other leaders, they are directly interacting with the Panchayati Raj representatives. This is a huge development, and it will have huge implications for the PRIs in the times to come. It has already been mentioned that the People's Plan campaign, which is being held between 2nd October to December every year, how it is bringing in Jan Bhagidari in the preparation of Gram Panchayat Development Plan. Mr. Sinha has already elaborated that all the details of this exercise which is carried out are in the public domain. Here I would just like to mention that the focus is on ensuring evidence-based assessment of progress made during previous years through reports of Mission Antyodaya survey, which is carried out by the Ministry of Rural Development every year, and consideration of proposals aimed to address identified critical infrastructure gaps, from ensuring full public disclosure on schemes, finances of all schemes in Gram Panchayat office and on Gram Samvad application. So the focus is on going in for evidence-based planning and having full transparency, informing the public, informing all the electors about what has taken place, where we stand, and what we do as we go forward. And recently, in 2019, the Gram, a geospatial planning application called Gram Manchitra, that has also been launched, which will provide decision support tool for GPDP exercise that is being undertaken. So it is evident that PRIs as institutions of local governance have now struck root, and their role is now well recognized by at all levels. However, ensuring transparency and accountability will be a major challenge, and I am happy to inform that over the last decade or so, the steps that have been taken by earlier, now the foundation has been laid where we can build on this. And I'd like to highlight some of the steps that have been taken in this regard, which largely involved use of digital technology. First was this e-Panchayat Mission Mode project, which was rolled out in the year 2009 and 10. And under this, several applications called Panchayat Enterprise Suites were developed, which addressed various aspects of Panchayat functioning. We had Plan Plus for planning, ActionSoft for monitoring, PriyaSoft for accounting, National Asset Directory for asset management, and Service Plus for service delivery. And all these various applications have now been subsumed under eGram Swaraj, a work-based accounting software, which was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister on 24th April 2020. A mobile app has also been launched wherein any citizen can view details of funds received and works undertaken by any Gram Panchayat in a particular year. Here, I would also like to point out that over 1.70 lakh Gram Panchayats are already registered on public finance management system, and they are making all payments made by them are being made digitally and using the PFMS system. And it has been mandated that from 1st April 2021, all GPs will be making all payments related to Central Finance Commission through PFMS. In fact, in certain states like Uttar Pradesh, all payments, whether it is of funds received under Central Finance Commission, State Finance Commission, or even state schemes, they are being made digitally using this PFMS system. Further, we have also, in order to address the concerns expressed by various Central Finance Commission regarding non-availability of audited accounts of the panchayats, the ministry launched the Audit Online application on 15th April 2020. During these COVID times, we have completed training of all auditing bodies in states. And these are basically the local fund auditors under the finance department in various states. And currently, online audit of about 70,000 gram panchayats is underway. Of these, audit of over 9,900 gram panchayats of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Goa has already been completed. And we expect the remaining audit work to be completed by 31st March. And beginning next year, all 100% audit of all gram panchayats will be undertaken using this software. I'm also happy to inform that even the office of CAG, they have evinced great interest in this software, and they are also planning to use it for undertaking audits for various departments which they are undertaking. We are also taking steps to ensure publication of audit report and action taken report of each GP in the public domain after it has been laid on the table of the House or presented before the Gram Sabha, as the case may be, because the legal provision varies from state to state. So these steps, coupled with social audit, will further strengthen the financial management system and increase transparency and accountability of the panchayats. So as it is very clear that the foundation for further strengthening the PRIs has been laid. This has been made possible because of the efforts of all my predecessors, of all officers who are working at the state government level, and the cooperation that we have received from the Panchayati Raj functionaries in the various Gram Panchayats, Block Panchayats, and District Panchayats. The capacity building of elected PRI functionaries is being undertaken on a massive scale under Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan. Digital technology is being extensively used. Role of NIC in development of various applications of Panchayat Enterprise Suite, which have now been subsumed under eGram Swaraj module. Audit Online, Service Plus has been outstanding. And we are working very closely with Ministry of Rural Development, Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, National Remote Sensing Center of ISRO, Rural Technology Action Group, Premier Schools of Planning and Architecture, and other technical institutions to ensure better service delivery, improve ease of living, and make rural residents an equal partner in the development process. We are hopeful that with the cooperation of all stakeholders, we will be able to overcome the challenges which are there, but those, as was mentioned, those are not insurmountable. With the cooperation of all stakeholders, we will be able to overcome them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sunilji. Raj, you've been listening to this. So on behalf of CI, may I request you to congratulate all the award winners, thank Mr. Amarjeet Sinha, and also say very briefly about what industry would like to do with them.
Sure. Thank you, Sameer. First, Mr. N.N. Sinha, congratulations, and Mr. Sunil Kumar, congratulations on your award. As Sameer was saying, I'd still like to hear with the limited budget that you had, how could you do what you've done? Mr. Sinha, Amarjit Sinha, it was an honor and pleasure listening to you. Brilliant, things that you shared in terms of what has come in, how you're looking at inclusive growth and touching almost all the strata of the country of India, which is so large and so complex. Interestingly, when I was a child, when I was in school, I used to hear roti, kapra, and makan, right? I think that roti, kapra, and makan has 2-3 new things which has been added. One is road, which you've already done, and the other one is internet/digital. And we have seen that specifically from an internet perspective, that any developing nation, if the internet penetration goes up by 5 or 6%, there is a impact to GDP of 1% or higher. The recent big billions day sale, which happened from one e-commerce company, had orders coming in from 99% of pin codes of India, which shows that digital has reached almost everywhere, and so has the internet, which also tells us that what you have been telling and the efforts that all of you have been putting, it's not only limited to the urban India, but has actually gone to the rural India also. The examples that was given in terms of rural India doesn't only mean agriculture, but only 13 or 14% is from a monetary terms is agriculture, and rest everything is something else in terms of manufacturing and services and so on and so forth. As we look at digital, as we look at internet, I'm sure that ratio is going to change, and that will be good for India. So overall, I seriously believe from the bottom of my heart that as a country, we have a very strong foundation, whether it's in terms of policies, in terms of digital. We have the right talent, we have the right partners, we have the right mentors like Mr. Amarjit Sinha, and coupled with a very clear vision coming from our respected Prime Minister. If we continue on this path with the help of the citizens of India and responsible citizens of India, I'm sure that we have a very truly exciting and very exhilarating journey ahead. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Sameer.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. Just a brief comment that, as an industry body and as a foundation, we've set up a working group on future of governance, what is it that we will be celebrating 5 years from now? Is there a roadmap possible? And given the enormous amount of data and input that comes to us from the field in terms of felt needs and assessment of projects, we would like to work very closely with the Ministry of Rural Development and Ministry of Panchayati Raj, and of course draw upon some of your wisdom to be able to do a good job with that. With that, I'd like to thank everybody. Thank you so much for coming with us. It's time now for our next panel, which is on duties in participatory democracy. Would you move on to the next panel? Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this panel, and congratulations once again for winning the Scotch Challenger Award. Thank you, John.